Welcome to the Good Growing Grow Along check-in number 2. So it is now end of July, and we're going to do a quick check-in to see how our gardens are doing, and then elicit some feedback from you as well. So I guess we can start off with how our gardens are doing. So Chris, Emily, do you want to kick us off?
I'd say, should I start? If you want me to
Yeah,
start?
go ahead, Chris. You start.
Okay. I'll just pull up my photos so we can see what I'm talking about. And feel free to make comments as you wish. Well, things I feel like are going splendidly in my grow along garden. As we talked about last time, I had a total failure of the black Nightrunner Bean, and I only had one of the candlefire okras survive. And pictured here is that one candlefire okra. I love okra. I think you talked about this one, and also you've mentioned cotton also in the past, but this plant is just pretty. I just like it. I would grow candlefire okra or really any okra just for fun, for the looks. It has this beautiful red stem, and it has these red pods that develop. Now, the thing with candlefire is, I remember it was remarked that it doesn't have those kind of ridges on the pod. And I've harvested 2 already, and it kind of still does, but they're still more rounded than normal. And so I've enjoyed my candlefire okra. I've only had a few pods, but if you can see that growing point right there, there's a lot of flowers and growth that is about to, I feel like this plant's about to really take off here as we are talking late July. Here are my hog brain beans. I should have trellised them. I have not. So I am just constantly fighting this angry vine that wants to grow all over stuff. So I'm trying to push and pull things away. Maybe I'll get something for them to climb on here soon, but it's looking less likely as the year goes. But I have yet to have any flowers or any fruit set on my hog brain. Now, I have just this morning, what is it? July 23rd, picked my first lemon cucumber. Actually brought it into the office right here. So Emily, you talked to me about when to harvest this one. So could you describe that again? And I'll observe my lemon cuke that I have to make sure that I've harvested it correctly.
Yeah. So I don't have any to harvest yet this year. I'm watching and I've got some blooms on mine, but from years past, it looks like to me, at least from what how I enjoyed our lemon cukes, you picked it like about the perfect time. So they'll start to, you can see the bottom of yours. So they start developing a deeper, richer, like more golden color over time when they start to mature. And you want to obviously harvest when they are immature, because then you're going to have a more flesh, like a more juicy flesh. Like it's that cucumber, right? You're not letting them actually collect the seeds. You're harvesting them to eat the flesh. And so I think you did a great job. That to me looks like when you would harvest it, when it's not too big. It's just about baseball size. Starting to have some coloration, but it's still like lemon colored. It's not golden. It's not too done. So I expect it will be, if you like the flavor, which to me was more mild than a regular cucumber. Not lemony. That's not why, like don't expect a lemon flavor. There's no citrus flavor. It's supposed to still be cucumber flavored. It just looks like a lemon. But I think you're gonna enjoy it if you enjoy cucumbers, assuming that.
I do. I am excited to try this. This being my first one, I have not tasted it yet, but I am looking forward to giving it a try. And with my cucumber vine, at least, let me back up here. You can see I decided, and I'm very happy that I did this. So I planted this on a retaining wall, and I have trained it so that it cascades over the retaining wall. And this is going to be easy picking, I think, coming up. As you mentioned, Emily, I had a lot of male flowers. Actually, for several weeks, it just produced a ton of male flowers. Only in the last maybe 2 weeks have I really started seeing several female flowers pop up. So I'm about to be hauling in buckets of cucumbers here pretty soon. But I really liked how I used the retaining wall to help me in maybe managing this plant a little bit more. Uh, Onto my honey bun. This right here, I have several of the honey bun squash fruit developing. This was my first one that started. I don't think it's ready yet. It does have those green kind of lines within the furrows of that fruit, but I'm looking for a more tannish color on the ridges of that fruit to develop. And until I see that, I guess I'm just gonna hold on to them, let them stay on the vine.
Yeah, I don't think it looks, I would do the same. I would wait for it to ripen a little bit more. It doesn't look, at least to me. I don't know. I've never grown honey bun and mine aren't developed yet either. My garden got a later start, so.
And with that being a winter squash, you want that to be fully
Yeah.
ripe, so that skin should be nice and hard. Can't puncture it with the thumbnail. Not that you want to go poking holes in it all over the place.
That's the
But
tough part about it. Yeah, you're like, all
Mhm.
right, the test is to punch a hole in it that I can't be able to, but what if I do? It's not good either.
Yeah.
And then on to my Mizuna, and I had a great run of Mizuna. We used it on salads, we used it on sandwiches. In terms of the flavor, I mean, it was kind of I almost thought of like almost like a mustardy green kind of flavor. But then I started seeing several of the leaves getting eaten on our Mizuna. So I did a little bit of closer investigation. I started finding these really interesting. I thought they were pretty caterpillars on my Mizuna. And turns out that Mizuna is a brassica. It's related to broccolis and kales and all of that stuff. I kind of guess I kind of got some of that flavor from there. But Ken, you identified this one for me. What am I dealing with here?
so that is was it the cross-striped um, cabbage worm? Is that what it was? Yeah,
Yes,
cross-striped
striped
cabbage
cabbage.
worm.
Mhm.
And that's not usually one of the ones we talk about, but I've had one year I grew broccoli in the fall and it got wiped out by this thing too. So I think this is one we maybe overlook a little bit when we talk about some of the brassica pests.
Mhm. Yeah, and wipe me out it did. I mean, it's a very pretty caterpillar. It has a bluish gray back, bands of neon yellow, greenish stripes on the sides, and a cute little red coppery head. But let me pull up my picture of what my Mizuna looks like today. That's my Mizuna and my cat when in its full glory. And again, it did very well. It was a delicious plant we harvested just by picking each individual leaves off and putting them on sandwiches and salads. But my Mizuna today looks like this. It's completely defoliated. The caterpillars have devoured it. So it is gone. I'm kind of holding on to it to see if it resprouts, but I don't think it will. So, yeah, they had a feast, and I just watched them do it. I didn't spray anything. I was just like, oh, this is interesting. Sometimes I just watch critters destroy my garden and take pictures of it.
I do the same
Like
thing.
like a good extension professional does.
That's right. That's right. Well, Emily, how are things growing along in your grow along garden?
Yeah, intermediate success. So we talked about how we did not have any germination of the oh, what was it? Black Knight. We had that was a fail. We didn't have any okra. So I did want to ask a question because I've never grown okra and I was excited to grow it this year and I'll get to be excited about it next year because ours didn't germinate. Is that pink like the rose stem color, is that normal or is that a candle fire characteristic like on the plant? Chris,
Usually
do you
it's
know?
usually green.
Okay.
I think it's
Okay.
candle
Okay.
fire. And
Okay.
there's some other ones that have colors, but usually it's all green.
Okay. Because it's beautiful. Like your picture
Mhm.
that's stunning. So um I'm gonna try that again. I might actually start it inside, I think next year, just to give it an advantage, hopefully. But Mizuna is going really, really well. Let me contrast your photos with mine here. So here is our some of our plants in our garden bed at the office. We've harvested at least twice off of it, and it keeps coming back. So really, really thrilled about it. I actually brought some in the office here for our recording. The stems are like purple. They're really pretty, really, really lovely. And then there's like that purplish color for the leaves. And so thrilled to have it in the garden. Let's see. Southern cowpea is just doing this, so we don't have any peas to harvest yet. It's doing well. There's a lot of blooms on it, and so we'll wait and watch. And then our honey bun does not look great, and it had vine borer, so gonna have to pull it out. It just is not gonna do anything here at the office. At home, there's some blossoms on it, and I need to go check it out again. I looked at it recently, just kind of in passing. It was a really quick walk through the garden. It was doing okay, but we had some strong winds at the house the other day, and so I'm a little concerned about what it did to all those large plants, and I just haven't had a chance to check in on them. But there were blooms, and I don't have any squash yet, so waiting to see. What else? Oh, and then just for fun, while out in the garden, the other week we talked about, this isn't part of the grow along, but the other week we talked about snapdragons. And Ken, this was for you. This sweet little thing is just growing in a crack in the concrete. And so even though sometimes our plants don't do well, sometimes they surprise us. And so I just had to put that little ray of sunshine in here, because get after it, little snapdragon.
As Ian Malcolm put it, life finds a way.
Yes. Yes. I mean, not all the life in our gardens, but
Some of it will.
some of it does. Yeah. My lemon cukes at home too, same kind of thing. I need to go trellis them. Have been so bad. It's ready to go. The hog panel's right next to it. I just haven't trained them, and so need to go do that. But they got a late start as well. We talked about that in our last podcast, where my garden just was kind of a hot mess at the beginning of the growing season, and so just a late start. So I'll just have later harvest. But they're looking really good, and I love cucumbers. Chris, well, can you give an update? And then I want to know what you're going to do with all your cucumbers, because I have some thoughts for what we could do with them. So Ken, how's your garden growing?
All right, so I took some pictures this morning. So here are the lemon cucumbers here. So we had some serious weed issues, and you can kind of see all those piles of crabgrass. So that's all cleaned out now. Like Chris, a lot of male flowers on there, but I do have, so you can see the flowers there. I do have a few fruit. I guess depending on the size of your thumb, the size of the thumb may be a little smaller than that. So hopefully here, probably a week or two, we should start seeing getting some fruit off of there. Now, so that's progressing along nicely. So we have two of those that made it. Here is the acorn honey bun. All right, here. So that's the one plant that made it there. You can see more of the weeds that have been removed. And we do have some fruit on there. So we've had, it's been flowering for a while, at least two fruit on there. I think the one on the right there, you can see getting a little bit of that yellowish, orangish color. So that may be getting close. I haven't tried to puncture it with a thumbnail. I'm going to let it go probably another week or so before I start seeing how hard it is, or I may just harvest it and cut it open and see how badly I screwed up and how much longer I need to wait. So, but that one is also progressing nicely. It's still a lot of blooms and stuff on there. We've got a lot of. This is the first place. This is out Lukeman Garden. This is the first time we've grown any kind of squash or anything out there, and I've got several squash bees that have found the plant, so it's been fun watching those run around. Here is the runner bean right here. So my trellis is woefully short. So these are in 17-inch tall raised beds. The posts are 5 foot tall. You pound them in the ground a foot. So I don't have a whole lot of trellis here. I needed a larger one, but it's it's keeping them somewhat off the ground. So you can see nice red flowers here. I have not seen any pods yet, but some of these flowers are getting older. So if we did get any pollination, we should probably start seeing some pods forming here in the next week or two. And then can report back. But I've grown this at home for several years, not this specific cultivar, but I like the bright red flowers. They got these nice big flower clusters on them and stuff, and they will get quite large. And then here is our hog's brain. No flowers yet. It doesn't really want to grow up the trellis too much. I keep pulling it over there, but it just kind of wants to go all over the place and is now eating the entire raised bed it's in. I haven't looked terribly closely, but I haven't seen any flowers, but I think we probably should be getting pretty close to getting some flowers on there. So hopefully, again, in the next week or two, start seeing some flowers on those, and we'll
Is
find
that
out.
fighting a watermelon patch?
Yeah, so that's the caterpillar tunnel. We grew some watermelons in there 3 years ago, and they volunteered ever since. And everything just kind of got raked out, and we have dozens and dozens of watermelon plants growing all over the place. So
Nice.
those will probably need to be either a path cut through there, or all of them are going to get yanked because they're eating everything as well. So I think we didn't have any Mizuna, and Okra did not germinate for me at all, but those that did, I think are doing pretty good.
Yeah, your stuff looks great, Ken. Way to go.
Mhm. I'm jealous you have the black Nightrunner bean. This is a very pretty flower.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yes.
Come to Jacksonville, you can enjoy them.
Okay. We'll do
Would
that.
you harvest some of this, just one of the blooms, and see if it works as a cut flower? It's so pretty. I wonder how, like, what the vase life would be for it.
Yeah, I can try that.
Okay.
And I can report back next time.
Thanks. Because that color, oh my goodness.
Very
It's
nice.
stunning.
Well, speaking of harvest, Emily, what should I do with all these cucumbers that I'm about to have?
Yes. Well, first, I mean, eat them fresh, right? And you can, use them just like a regular cucumber. But I was made aware. So we would always can, like pickles. We'd make just pickles in a, we use a steam pressure cooker. It's not a pressure cooker.
Water
It
bath.
uses
Like
steam.
a basket?
It's a steam canner. So it's a little bit limited because it has to be acidic foods that you would can. So you're really limited with what you can do, but it goes really fast. So we would do pickles, and we would do tomato-based things in it. You can't do any of the other vegetables. So it's limited, but it's faster. So we would do pickles. But our food and our nutrition and wellness educator made me aware of freezer pickles. Have you ever done these?
No.
Nope.
Okay. So I'm leery about putting things in the freezer because I think it makes things kind of mushy, and I like a real crisp pickle. But she insisted that they stay crisp. And I think she was awarded an award for one of her recipes. So I need to go ahead and get that from her. But I'm gonna try that, and I'll share it with you, Chris, and you can try it too. I just think I could put them in the freezer. I don't have a lot of freezer space, but I'm going to try something different with them doing freezer pickles. So, and they're smaller. So I might just do like fun, like slices and then little wedges instead of spears. So.
Well, I definitely am interested in trying that. We're doing a lot more freezer preservation this year. Actually, just last night, I took a couple dozen sweet corn ears, blanched them, cut them off the cob, got them all thrown in the freezer real quick. So yeah, sweet corn in the middle of December. That's the goal. So yeah, freezer. That's what we're going for this year.
Yes. Ken, do you have any? That's all I have experience with. I don't know. I mean, your Mizuna's toast. We're just going to eat fresh Mizuna and keep donating it. I mean, honey bun, I don't have any specific recipes for that. I just like it with a little bit of brown sugar and butter. A little bit. Emphasis on a little bit. I like my squash to taste like squash, not like candy. So
Mhm.
I know there's a variety of opinions of that. But
So when we've done acorn squash in the past, we just usually roast it and mix it in
mm,
with something or kind of as a filler.
I'm looking forward to it. We'll see. So not only do I get to taste test it, I will also check back with you all and see if the kids like it too. So they might want a little bit more sugar on theirs. It's actually constant, yeah, sweets in my house. Just not great. Oh, I I guess also my question on harvesting okra. Never grown it before. Uh, what I wish I had more okra plants too, because what do you do when you're pulling off one pod every week? You know, there's not much to do. So, got any advice for my 1 or 2 pods of okra I'm getting a week?
I personally, I like it plain. Just eat it right off the plant. I like that better than cooked or fried or. And if you're only getting a couple, that may be the most practical way to do it, unless you're going to freeze a bunch. And
Could try. Well, what's this thing about slime? I again, slimy okra doesn't sound great. So how do I harvest without the slime?
I don't know. For me, it's like when you eat it, you just kind of gets kind of mucusy a little bit.
that's a word that we want to use when we're describing our vegetables.
Little snotty in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a way to prevent that. I guess frying doesn't usually.
Mhm.
You don't usually get that. I don't know what causes it or why it does it. Maybe it's just me.
Okay.
I don't know.
Hey, I don't know. I know, yeah, there's certain ways where when you put okra in like a gumbo, you cook it a certain way, it reduces that mucus stuff. It's not mucus. It's mucusy like gel-like substance. But I think Grant McCarty, he grows okra. He might even have some videos on that. Maybe throw a link about that in the description where it shows Grant harvesting okra. I think he talks about the mucus. So, yeah.
Yeah, you don't want them to get too big because then they get kind of fibrous, and you don't. I've pulled them, when they've gotten. I mean, these are the larger types when they get 4, 5, 6 inches long, and like you chew on it and chew on it, and it's so fibrous you can't really chew it up or swallow it.
So I wanted to share with you something from Grant about harvesting. So he has a blog post, and I'll send the link and we can send it in the email. But he says, and I quote, "You might also consider wearing gloves and long sleeves, as the okra leaves and pods have very fine hairs that may cause some irritation to your skin." And so, does it have that? Have you observed?
Yeah. I
Okay.
I, I would agree. Yeah, definitely that.
Okay.
And probably the squash plants too.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're rooting around there looking for a cucumber or something. Sometimes those
Yes.
hairs can get your arms.
Yeah, I've noticed.
So then
I've never had any issues personally with it, but
yeah. He also recommends that you wash them immediately, unless you plan to cook with them that day. If they stay wet, they will potentially begin to mold and develop a slimy outer coating. So wash them, or wash your singular okra when you get it. And then you can also, with the slime or goo, he calls it goo, another good term for our vegetable stuff descriptions. It's released when you cut it. And so cutting into smaller pieces produces more of it. So use bigger pieces. That's, I thought, good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Best of
Or
luck.
just like Ken, just pop it off and eat it right away.
then you get all the goo.
That can't tell if it's all in your stomach immediately. Swallowed whole.
All right. Any other updates? Anything else you want to share before we talk about how we want people to share information with us?
I'll say for the runner beans, if people start getting pods on those, you can eat those as a green bean, or you can let them fully mature. And everybody that planted them saw those seeds. They're pretty, and you can eat those dried beans as well. So you've got you got options there as to how you pick and consume those runner beans if you want to go that, or just grow them as an ornamental.
And the southern pea hog brain, that is traditionally a dried pea or a dried bean, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. I suppose there's nothing stopping you from eating it more fresh, but I'm going to try to dry them down. That's my goal for this year with my hog brain. So we also did get feedback from folks that with our last survey. So thank you everybody for sending us your feedback about how your plants are growing, or in some cases, like us, not growing. It happens, and as you can tell, happens to everybody. So we did have, one question that someone brought up, and they asked about how did you choose which seeds you would make available? I don't. It was a cold, wintry day, wasn't it? I don't know why did we choose what we chose?
Seemed like a good idea at the time.
The darkness of winter and the cold had crept in, and well, yeah, we had some criteria first, right? So it had to be full sun, could be direct seed. So that narrowed down into what we were looking at. And then we all just kind of pulled together things we thought were interesting. That was basically the criteria that we started with. And then we talked as a group, what had we already grown or what had we grown. But the different cultivars that we brought, to the discussion were interesting, had fun names. Naming was part of, like, for some of them.
Yeah.
It was as simple as that. I saw the Mizuna hadn't, like, I think I advocated for Mizuna. I just like pink. I really like the color pink. And so I was on board with the Mizuna, and then I think Ken, you brought Okra, which is also supposed to be some pink, and so I supported that. And you had liked Okra and thought that we should grow it, and so I mean, that's my memory of it, of the conversation, was that we just all brought 4 or 5 thoughts to the table, or plants to the table, that we had sourced from different kind of unique catalogs, things that we found that were new or exciting, and then we just talked about it, narrowed it down. Does your memory, does that match your memory?
That's it.
That's
Okay.
what happened.
Okay.
Yeah, big list, narrowed it down to a little list.
Yeah.
Ornamental appeal gave
Yes.
gave points. That's would be something we'd want. So,
Yeah.
and then just weird stuff, things we'd not tried before. We're like, this is a thing, a time to try new stuff, grow new stuff, and we can flounder along with everyone listening and watching us right now as we learn to grow new things.
I think we did talk about too, like the growing season. So warm season crops for the most part. I know Mizuna is a little on the edge, but we were starting something new, and so we thought we'll just do it all in one push instead of having a spring garden and a summer garden and a fall garden. So maybe in the future we could expand that a little bit if we wanted to start a garden sooner. But that was, I think, one of the criteria that we also talked about, where it was like, we just need time to organize the program. So we started in the summer. There was something else. What was it? Oh, size. I think we also considered size. We were trying to do things that were a variety of sizes so that more people could participate. So if you have, a patio garden or limited space, you could choose some of the plants that were smaller in size. Whereas if you have a larger space to grow in, and wanted to do more or the bigger plants, then you could choose those.
Yeah, and I guess pollination played a little bit because we had some corn on there, but with having to plant blocks of that wasn't really going to be feasible to send out 30, 40 seeds so you could have a nice block. So that got axed in favor of things that you could grow one plant and still get a harvest off of it.
Yeah. So that's behind the curtain.
Well, we also got a lot of comments about especially slow growth of okra, which is something I've definitely seen. It really just sat there for a month. It just sat there and didn't really do much of anything. And even now it's fairly slow, but it's really starting to take off, I think, ramp up now that it's become more of an established plant. So again, we were really selecting for direct seeded. Everything in my garden was direct seeded. If there are some things that we can get started a little bit earlier inside and bring it outside, that just gets us that extra jump on the gardening season. Maybe we'd be more advanced, but we wanted to really stick with that direct seeded approach for this one.
And maybe that would be some feedback folks could provide for us. Like, do you have the capability to start plants inside? Like will say we intend on doing this next year as well. Different plants, of course. Is that we assumed that that was a limiting factor for participation, that, starting seeds inside and having that set up. We'll send out a survey and ask for some feedback. That would be one thing we'd be curious. If there were one or two things we could start inside early, would you be interested?
And again, we'll send this out in the future if there's other things you think would be good to grow as part of this. We are open to suggestions.
Yeah. We do need to be mindful. So they need to be smaller seeds. That was a lesson we learned this year, is it's hard to mail if we're going to keep the program free, and we would like to, just so that we can have more people participate. The U.S. Postal Service has different widths of packages that they consider an actual package or an envelope. And so we did learn that I think it was the Runner Bee, they set us over the edge for scale or size for package. So it was fine this year, but just something to keep in mind. We will be more conscious of that in the future, just so that we don't get emails.
Well, and again, thank you to everyone who responded to our survey, and several people. Like we have a lot of information, that a lot of comments, a lot of good data, and lots of photos that people have also submitted. And so we'll just share a couple of those. Y'all have some really pretty gardens, and you're doing a great job of keeping like weeds down and like keeping plants looking healthy. So kudos to you. Some beautiful shots here of different people in this kind of participants in this program, help going along here, growing along with us. From the okra. There's lots of okra, from okra in the field, okra in containers. We have lots of people trying container growing this year. So some really gorgeous looking plants coming out of containers. Things growing on decks, on patios, in the landscape, edible landscaping. It's a thing that you can do with these plants that we have selected. Isn't that cool? It's just incorporated right there in the landscape with everything else, with the salvias and such.
Yeah, everyone's garden's like very impressive. I need to get out in my garden and clean it up. It looks wonderful. I love that trellis, the way that, yeah, I know. That's a really neat kind of ornamental trellis, so when it blooms, it'll be real pretty.
Nice runner bean. Here's some Mizuna, again, growing in pots. Yeah, it's just very decorative, very ornamental. It's sitting on this wire metal chair right here. It's sort of an accent piece. I love how people have incorporated a lot of this in the landscape. And again, we have other folks that are trying, different types of growing culture. So this is someone doing a lot of fabric pot growing. And here, this participant in particular, they asked us if we could tell, based on this photo, if perhaps whitefly maybe devoured their Mizuna. Based on this picture, I looked closely at it. I don't know. We really couldn't tell, though. If anyone else has any comments about what might have happened here.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that been. And whiteflies are going to have that piercing, sucking mouth part, so they wouldn't be necessarily chewing it up. And I think if you had enough whiteflies to see that kind of damage, you'd probably see them flying around if you bumped that plant. It'd look like it's snowing.
Yeah, lots more bag culture with the cucurbitates. Other pots here, creative ways of watering. There's more honey bun. And again, and this is part of the I pollinate. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so neat photo to end on. Yeah, so thank you everyone for sharing this. growing along with us. So far, I mean, I'm having a blast trying these new things, and so it has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I
Yes.
appreciate everyone joining us for this little experiment. We appreciate the feedback too. We know that garden season's busy, so taking the time to send us some of your feedback is really appreciated.
And speaking of feedback, say if you're watching this, you probably got the email with the survey in it, but we do have another survey, another check-in for people to fill out and tell us how things are going. And on this one, we're going to include questions on harvesting. So if you've been able to harvest anything, what have you harvested? How much have you eaten it? Did you like it? All that stuff. So please take time. It shouldn't take terribly long. Maybe I think most people took 5-10 minutes. I think largely depends on how if you grew everything, it's going to take you a little longer than if you only have one thing, but shouldn't take you too terribly long to fill that out and let us know how things are going.
Yeah, more surveys. Oh yeah, but that's what we do here. You know, we want to collect data and then present that feedback to the world. And it is hard to find good trial data anymore when it comes to kind of an unbiased approach. You know, we're not here trying to sell you these plants. We're just trying to grow them and see what does best here in Illinois and what is fun to grow here in Illinois.
Yeah. And people have been being honest and providing their like full spectrum, feedback too. Like if things you do not love or if they don't go well, that's okay. Like please share that with us too. We would like to know, because it does help us kind of evaluate the plants and then also, hopefully be able to support you. So.
Yeah. So yeah, let us know if I don't think it will, but if the honey bun squash tastes like hot garbage, let us know. We want to know. And we will also be tasting it to find out.
Be miserable.
We'll know.
Yeah. My tongue is numb. I ate the squash and I can't feel anything right now. So yeah, we will. We're doing this all together.
All right. That I think wraps it up for another update. Our second. We'll do another one in August and see how the gardens are growing. And thank you all again.
Good luck.
Have fun. Today, Ken is unhinged.